a 2018 Toyota 4Runner. It's a TRD Pro, so it's basically just the TRD off-road with a little bit of different bumpers and grille and badging. Starting from the top, we have that roof nest, roof tent. It's pretty easy to use, obviously fairly low profile. Pretty happy with it so far. We have the ladder attachment point on the right hand side so that we can use the awning over here on the left, the ARB awning. This tent's pretty easy to open. It's really all the setup that's required. That bungee that goes right through the middle is normally pulled down, but in order to stow it and close the tent back up, you put that bungee right where it is. It keeps the sides in tight so they don't get pinched along the outside edge when you're trying to close the clamshell back down. Overall, pretty happy with it. It's got a waterproof and mold resistant memory foam pad that stays in there, and then a little air pad underneath that helps prevent any sort of moisture buildup, or if it does build up in there, then it's fairly easy to clean out so you don't start having mold issues. The attachment points are pretty simple. You just need 2 crossbars underneath the entire longitudinal axis of this thing. From front to back, there's a couple trays, and then you won't be able to see on the video, but there's just a pair of U-bolts on each cross member. So underneath that, it's just an Eezi-Awn K9 roof rack. I think it's the 3/4, maybe the full length. It's obviously fairly unusable now that there's a rooftop tent on it, but there are cool attachments where you can put jerry can holders, axe or shovel holders, just little eyelets to tie things to. We've gone and picked up plywood and lumber with this thing before. Just put it right on top and strap it down with ratchet straps. Super convenient and easy because it obviously won't fit inside, not like a truck. Next thing, the big old steel bumper with dual swing outs. It's fairly customizable. This brand is C4. Take it a little closer and show you. So you're replacing the entire stock rear bumper, which goes from here all the way up to under here underneath the taillights, and then obviously the whole rear end. You change out the stock trailer hitch, so that does reduce your ground clearance if you have it on there, but it's pretty easy to take off. And you can tell side view, it's a pretty big difference between like the stock height and how much more ground clearance you have back here because of how much higher up that clearance is. It also gives you a lot more clearance to start fitting a bigger tire in the back. The tires aren't a whole lot bigger than stock. The stance is a little more aggressive, so the offset is more aggressively out, and the tires are a little wider. But with this roughly 2-inch lift, it still clears just fine. Both front and then obviously rear. There's not really much to worry about in the back with that bumper. I'll swing this open really quick and show you. Fairly easy to use. You can put either a pair of 5-gallon Jerry fuel cans or a pair of 6-gallon water jugs, or a combination of the two, and then obviously space for a full-size spare. So this first position is enough to clear the hatch, but then it goes out a little further, which is convenient for this portion. This little swing down table has been really convenient for the 6-gallon water jug. Set it on there. Obviously it won't clear now, but move it out to the second position. It just barely clears. So with the cables and how heavy duty this is, it's been completely fine for holding on this 6-gallon water jug. Got some pretty good tie down points. There's also a little cutout for if you want to wire in, like we have, reverse lights. These drawers are convenient. They pull out like 4 feet. This left drawer is primarily just cooking stuff, so plates, and pans, paper towels, aluminum foil. Also have these storage trays packed down, very low profile, but pop out. Good for washing dishes, or washing hands and faces. Pop out. These will hold a lot of water, but they pack back down. Very low profile. Got cutting boards. And I've also got utensils and pots, pans, cups, plastic bags, and hand wipes. This other side's mostly just camping gear. Got a little bit of stuff for the dogs on the right hand side. I'll show you that. So, toilet paper, paper towels in this little compartment for camping. Some lights, a mallet for driving tent stakes. When we do actually use a tent. Pretty good quality walkie-talkies. This is a lot of fire starting gear. Stays in there, keeps it a little bit more airtight. Got a little hatchet, some gear ties. I'll just show you on camera up close. And we got a bunch of these lanterns, and these are pretty handy. You can buy these at Harbor Freight. The little hook is useful if you can find something to hook onto, but also the magnet. A lot of times they'll use it and just stick it somewhere to the bumper with the magnet, and it can help light up the campsite with a little bit more diffuse light. These are also handy. You compare, or you add this to the little loop, and you can hang it from these things up here. That's handy for if it's dark out. Some other various flashlights, headlamps, a bunch of dog water drinking bowls, tethers, more bowls, fabric, collapsible bowls, spare dog food packets, stuffable, packable backpack, a hammock, and the rain fly for the tent. As far as the other things in the back here, we've got the jack on that side and those tools that come stock with the truck. On the right hand side, we've got one of these little car powered hand vacs. Got a first aid kit for the dog specifically. Got a small little backup first aid kit, and the truck just comes stock with a couple power outlets back here. As long as the car's on, you can use that, or just a standard cigarette plug, 12 volt. Also got a emergency roadside assistance kit. Open that here in a second. It's pretty handy. It's got Velcro on the bottom, so it'll pretty much stick wherever you put it on the carpet. It's got stuff like a spare set of jumper cables. It's got an air compressor. It's got some little road triangle, big old flashlight, spare wheel bolts, lug bolts, and it's kind of like a mini survival kit, first aid kit, spare batteries, emergency rain poncho, a little mini first aid kit, and some zip ties. Up here in the middle section, this platform takes up some of the storage space you would have otherwise between the back of the seat being folded down and where the height would normally be. Just trying to make it flat from the back storage compartment to here, but at least you can take advantage of the storage space that's kind of created underneath. So stuff like first aid kits, there's get home bags. It's basically the exact same setup in my wife's cart. That's in my cart. That fits under there. Stuff like the ARB tire repair kit, and then we've also got a little small toolkit down here. Little toolkit. I'll show you up close some of this stuff. So, toolkit, pretty basic. It's mostly just sockets, a couple wrenches, and very minor like screw bit attachments. It has not been used ever, but it's low profile and it's pretty easy to store. Next thing we'll talk about is this ARB tire repair kit. So these are very useful. I've used these a couple times. If you have any sort of damage on a tire, it's so much easier to just repair the tire, air it back up, and then get back on your way, as opposed to having to take the entire tire off or the wheel off and replacing it on the side of the road or on a trail. So it's got a little instruction manual. Show you, there's only 6 steps. As long as it's in the tread as opposed to the sidewall, then you can repair the tire. It's got a ton of plugs. Take a long time before you're out of these. And then the most important part of this kit specifically is the fact that these T-handles are pretty heavy duty metal. It's a lot different than the plastic ones that you'll find at Walmart or even Advanced Auto Parts. It's got a couple of the basic little tools, plastic and metal valve stem caps, a needle tool, replacement valves, and then replacement stems. Tire pressure checker. So pretty much this is everything that you need to repair a tire from start to finish, except the air compressor. So you need to have an air compressor to supplement this kit to make it a full kit. You can also use this. This is just grease. It's supposed to be kind of, you dip the T-handle in this. It makes it a little easier to get through the tread and cord and steel belts, potentially whatever your tire construction is. You have to get through that in order to get those plugs in there. But they've always done a good job, and like I said, if it's in the tread, you can repair the tire, as long as it's not a massive hole. You should always have first aid kit in your car, and if you have space, you might as well do a pretty heavy duty first aid kit. This is obviously waterproof, airproof, won't get dust in it. It's a little bit better insulated from heat, the elements in general. So I'll talk through what's in here really quick. Let me just adjust the camera. It's made by a company called Outer Limit Supply. It's made by a company called Outer Limit Supply. Primarily focused in kind of like off-road centric first aid supplies. It's got a list of all the components, and then I've supplemented it since then. So these gauze sponges are good for if you have a wound that covers a lot of surface area. A bunch of those, potentially you need to replace them, so have a bunch of spares. Supplemented these extra little syringes for all sorts of different uses. It's got padded splint, kind of like the same splint, it's just the different brand. No name brand. More syringes, some gauze rolls, some tape, some more tape, emergency blanket for hypothermia, combat tourniquet, a CPR mask, a couple of hand sanitizer packs, some eye wash solution, aloe vera, sunburn, burn dressing, a bunch of band-aids, all sorts of different sizes, Chemlite light stick, some little first aid instructions, combine pad, another one, another pad. It's the glucose for like low blood sugar, like emergency situation, low blood sugar. Little pack of backup emergency sunscreen. This little medication packet. It's fairly well organized. Some of these things are pretty easy to lose because of how small the packets are, so this makes it super convenient. The numbers correlate with the little inventory, so aspirin, Cetapin, Diotame, Exaprin, Histoprin, Ibuprofen, Medialite, and Meclizine. It's got the use listed next to the name of the medication, and then a couple packs of each. That's those in here. We've got some tweezers, got some shears, and then a cold pack, some eye pads for eye wounds. Eye pads for eye wounds, cold pack, wound wipes, 10 of them, triangular bandage, burn gel, separate from this burn dressing, and then medical gloves. And then obviously there's still some space in here, so you could still supplement it with even more. So as you can see, there's plenty of storage space back here, even with this little tray that we have installed in order to make the floor flat from front to back. We've got 3 dogs, and this makes it super convenient for getting all 3 of them all fit inside the truck with plenty of space for all the other gear. If we needed to, we could sleep on this pad because it's plenty long enough and definitely flat enough. Just put some sort of foam pad or air mattress on top of it. Primarily, we just usually let the dogs sleep inside the truck during the winter time, and we'll be up in the rooftop tent. But then we've also got a awning room attachment for this awning. So that's been super convenient as well. Technically, you could have 3 separate couples. 1 couple in the tent, 1 couple in the truck, and 1 couple, or maybe even 2 couples inside this awning room because it's how large it is. But that thing's pretty cool too because it turns your awning from a 4-sided plus floor, fully enclosed room. Talking just a little bit more about the inside, we put some LED lights inside the truck, so it's hard to tell, but the lighting's all a little bit brighter, a little bit cooler temperature, and doesn't get as warm, doesn't use as much power as the standard incandescent stuff. There's nothing really done to the inside of the front. Standard TRD Pro. Obviously a manual transfer case selector for four-wheel drive high and low. Screen's not very impressive. The crawl control, if you haven't looked at kind of the capabilities of the crawl control, it's definitely something that's pretty interesting. It's primarily what drew us into being interested in the truck in the first place. The crawl control is super useful. This is speed adjusted auto crawl control, and then you have different terrain select features. Turn either of those on or off when you're in the four-wheel drive modes. Electronic locking rear diff, and then the A-track. You can also turn off traction control. Otherwise pretty basic up here. Okay, let's keep working our way around the outside of the truck. Finally finished with the inside. So we've also upgraded to HID retrofit projector headlights. Those are super bright. Also upgraded the high beam. You can kind of tell there's a high beam bulb in there. And then these are LED fog lights and daytime running lights. Fog lights in the middle, and then the running lights are on the outside. Nothing to the front besides these little aftermarket tow hooks. It's primarily just for looks. It doesn't really make it that much more convenient for tow points on the front. That skid plate is stock. The mud flaps are stock. The tires are a little wider than stock. They're 285s, and you can tell there's no clearance issues. There's no sign of any sort of impact or rubbing on the inside either. Part of what helps is the offset. It's a little bit more aggressive offset outward, but then also the lift helps a little bit. These are coilovers. It's the Icon Stage 1. I've posted a video of how to install them. Really like them so far. The cool thing about coilovers is they're completely height adjustable, so you can tell that we're almost as low as these will go. Well, not necessarily. These will go a little lower, but they'll also go way higher because of where the spring perch is in relation to how much thread is left. When you do start doing a lot more lift, you do definitely need to start looking into upgrading the upper control arm so that you can get a more capable ball joint, because the stock ball joint it's asking a lot of the stock ball joint on a big lift, especially if you're doing additional down travel. There's a sway bar relocation kit that's included in the Icon, at least Stage 1. And then we've upgraded, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but upgraded the oil filter housing to a metal one. It's been a lot easier to use, a lot more durable, a lot more reliable. The stock one cracked. So the reason that we picked coilovers in the first place is to get a specific height to match the rear, because with this 400 pounds-ish of weight, the bumper alone is very heavy duty steel. Both the swing outs, full size spare, and then depending on how much fuel or water you're carrying in the back, it's all a lot of weight in the back. Plus this constantly has all of like the camping gear in the back of these storage trays. So we had to upgrade the rear springs so it wasn't sagging, and to additionally get that extra wheel clearance. So we went to a 2-inch lift, 400 pound extra weight capacity, constant extra weight, Dobinson spring. And then obviously had all the alignment done. You can tell there's also not a spare tire under here anymore, so that's part of what gives you all this extra clearance. Cut the exhaust so it wasn't coming down along here, lowering your ground clearance. But there's obviously a lot of space in here for potentially going to a additional spare tire or spare fuel tank. Plug up and out of the way, and you can see right here, as long as you take these 2 bolts out, these 4 little cover plate bolts off, you can get to the other 4 bolts that hold this thing on, and then it'll be a smooth, flush, better ground clearance version of this bumper. They're all beefy. Toe points, and then I think that about covers it. As far as tire selection for your spare, the closer you can stay to the matching tire size, the better. So if you take a wheel off and you replace it with the stock size, the off-road performance is going to be different because the rotation rate is going to be different size wheel. Also, the further the tread pattern is from the matching, the more different the off-road performance is going to be. So the further you get from the stock size, the harder it's going to be to fit this up underneath the truck, which is part of the reason a lot of people go to the spare tire carrier on the back. The other part is it's way easier to get to this, take it off, replace it, than having to crawl up underneath, lower the tire down, and then put the other tire back up underneath. And the third reason is you get extra ground clearance because there's not a tire hanging down below where the bottom of the bumper is now. As far as tire and wheel selection, it's mostly personal preference, but a lot of people are really happy with the KO2s. It's a fairly aggressive sidewall, definitely an aggressive tread pattern. It's an all-terrain. It's a lot better performance off-road and in the snow than the original tires, which were Nito Terra Grapplers. Those were loud, didn't do great off-road, and they didn't do very well in the snow either. But it's been a really good choice so far. A little bit bigger size than stock, and they're, like I said, they're actually quieter than the tires that we placed. Wheel style is personal preference too. You can go a little wider on the rim, makes it easier to get a bigger tire, and then it's not having to stretch from where the start of the sidewall is to where the rim starts. The more narrow this rim is, the more the tire is going to have to balloon to match all the way back down. Or if you go too wide, obviously that's not ideal either. So the closer you can go to matching, the better. So the tire is shaped how it's supposed to be, and then if you air down, it doesn't risk breaking the bead nearly as easily. This is not a real bead lock, just a faux bead lock. So not nearly as useful as a real legit bead lock would be, but it's still better than nothing because it gives you extra metal material here, so it's a little bit more resistant to like damage and dents or bends to the wheel because there's just more material there. But like I said, it's partly just for looks, partly for performance, but does not do nearly as well as an actual bead lock would as far as airing down and preventing debeading the wheels from the tire, or the tire from the wheel.